Okay, welcome. Today I wanted to offer 9 things that I've learnt about death and grief. And yeah, since my wife passed away about a month and a half ago, just some of the things that I've really understood and learned from this process. So enjoy. Yeah, so as many of you know, on the 9th of February, my wife of we've been together 17 years. She passed away. She had a heart attack. And yeah, it's been a very challenging 6-7 weeks. And at the same time, I was releasing the documentary Bordering on Insanity. This last week, we released the film last week, and then we've basically taken it down on Saturday just to give us a break. And that's felt, actually really good to have stopped. It's allowed me to just process a bit, and I've started sleeping again, so that's made a huge difference. So today I just want to share 9 things that I've learned. One of my subscribers last week asked me, well, it'd be good to write a book at some point, and maybe if people want me to, I would be, at some point write a book about what I've learned. So the first thing I think I put down was is I learned really quickly that it's much harder than I thought. It's through my Buddhist practice, through, certainly reflecting on my own death. That's one of the Stoic philosophies, to imagine your funeral, to Buddhist reflection on old age, sickness and death. And so I thought that, I'd be prepared, but actually it's been really tough. The amount of tears and grief and just sadness, and I think that ties into this kind of, ties into the same point, this idea that with a wife, a husband, we're not just losing our husband or wife, we're losing our best friend, we're losing, our confidant, we're someone we connect to, we talk to. So, it's like a big grief. And a few people have messaged me saying, the research has shown that the biggest stress, the biggest challenge in people's lives is to lose their husband or wife. And I can really resonate with that. It's like, yes, I really feel that now. And on one level, it reminds me of boarding school, because we're told at boarding school, you just won't see your mum and dad, but actually it's much bigger than that. And I've really felt that, when we go to boarding school, we lose our parents, but we lose our safe space, our bedroom, we lose food we love, we lose pets, we lose contact with friends, family, we lose, our community. And so that's kind of how it's felt a bit with the grief. It's, losing so much. So that kind of ties me on to the second one, and this came to me and I've mentioned this before in the videos, is that first night after she died, the 9th of February, lying in bed crying and just realizing that common humanity, that all of us go through death at some point. We lose someone we love. We lose our parents, we lose our husband or wife, we lose our children or, friends. We all go through this. So that was really helpful. It was like a balm that first night that, I'm not alone. Everyone goes through this. And I still cried and I still was in that grief, but it was just like, I'm not alone. And that really helped me that first night. While going through the grieving process, I was reading Post-Traumatic Growth, the book by Stephen Joseph, which is called What Doesn't Kill Me. And it's all about, how we move from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. And in there he shares this idea, and again I've talked about this the last few weeks, this idea of approaching rather than avoiding. And I think for us as ex-boarders, you've been through childhood trauma, you're more likely to avoid rather than approach. Certainly, speaking to Ann Power in her podcast about a month ago, she talked about how if you go to boarding school, you become avoidant. That's the main attachment style that the boarding schools almost want to channel you into, to be avoidant, meaning you keep intimacy at arm's length, you avoid stuff, you avoid emotional connection. And so what I found is that I've had to approach, it's been really difficult, and that first week of grief was, oh my God, it was so difficult to, just to not cry all the time. And I would just come across things in the house, whether it was her purse or whether it was her clothes or whether it was her cigarettes. It was like, and then another wave of grief would come. And I think by approaching what happens and really going into those tears and that grief is now 6 weeks on, my heart feels open and I'm not carrying the same amount of grief that I was 6 weeks ago. Every day still something triggers me and I'll feel, but that first week or two I was in tears a lot of the day. And Stephen Joseph talks about approaching, lean into it. Okay, this is really unpleasant, really hurt, and just being with that grief, letting the heart heal. And I always see grief is like this reservoir. We just got to keep letting it flow. And a lot of the time it's felt very clean and clear energy. Like, oh yeah, this is just present moment. I'm grieving for Michelle. The next thing, and this was probably day 2, day 3, that I heard this voice in my head, and it was Phil Stutz, the psychiatrist, and he in his work talks about emotional stamina, and he says the worse you feel, the more committed you are to your protocols, to your fundamentals. And I realized that, and I could go, immediately I went, oh, the worse you feel, I feel the worst I've ever felt, almost, And so it was get back onto my protocols. And what's the protocols? It's the fundamentals. I talk about this a lot and I share this with clients all the time, is eating well, sleeping well, meditation, exercise, eating, moving, sleeping, breathing. And so on that Tuesday, it was like, right, boom, get back into it. I started running again. I, missed a few days. I started to, really eat well. And the grief was still there, but I was taking care of those fundamentals. I was taking care of myself. And the other aspect was making sure I was reaching out to people, and so many friends were there, and it was, bless you all for supporting me. So that's the fourth thing. And the fifth thing really came to me is like this idea of appreciating what I do have. It's very easy after death is suddenly to go, God, I didn't say thank you, or I didn't do this, or I didn't appreciate people. And so my invitation as a learning is, in my own life, is just going, thank you. And I'm creating a course called The Compassionate Leaders. And the last module is really looking at the importance of gratitude, the importance of, how that's just one of the precursors for optimal health and mental health, physical health. And so that's been really clear. It's like, right, really appreciate. If you are in a relationship, you do have children, if you do have parents, appreciate them, thank them, because we don't know when someone will die. Like with Michelle, I didn't have a chance to say goodbye. And so that made me really sad. I just wanted to say thank you for all that she gave. And I know on a spiritual level I can connect to her, and I have connected to her. But it's not quite the same as saying it in person. So that's the kind of the next thing. It's just really appreciating what you do have now. Next thing, as I've mentioned, is about friendship. It's like that's been so important, and I think it's to make sure we cultivate the friendships now, so when a challenge comes up, we have the friends there to support us. And I've literally had dozens of people have reached out and supported me and, helped with the funeral. They've all been amazing. And, we live in a society where we don't connect as much with other people. And I think, it's important for us to cultivate these friendships. It doesn't have to be many, but, people we really trust. It's like, right, yeah. And so that's something I do every month is I reach out to certain friends, and it's in my diary, in our diaries, right? I'm going to speak to them. So that, what's happened these last few months is people are there to support. And so that's felt really, really important, that I would have really struggled if I hadn't got anyone to support me. Next point about death and grief is it's very easy. I felt quite needy in this last 6 weeks. It's like I'm missing Michelle so much. It's just I need someone. And what's really been coming to me is not to make any rash decisions for 3-6 months. Just be with this discomfort, approach it, but don't, move house, don't get into another relationship. It's like, no, allow the heart to heal. Because otherwise what happens is we take that wounded heart into the next relationship, and we're still processing that while we're trying to be with someone else. It's like the same with moving house. It's like, no, just stay in this place. And I remember listening to Matthew McConaughey a few months ago, and he was saying when he became famous, it was like overnight, he just again said, right, I'm not going to change anything for 6 months, just kind of let things settle. And I think it's the same with grief, is we've just got to keep those fundamentals, those routines going, let the heart heal, take care of yourself, connect with other people, but don't make any big life changes. And that's certainly something I really resonate with. The next thing I've really learnt is that importance of spending time with friends, but also spending time alone, reading, writing, spending time in nature. I've been in the garden quite a lot, pottering, but also journaling, going, what did I learn about my relationship? What was great about it? It's like spending that time to grieve, to process. I think sometimes it's very easy for us to just want to spend time with other people, but our hearts have to process. We have to approach, and sometimes we can be avoiding if we're just spending time with other people or getting busy with work. And actually it's just to be still and to connect with our emotions. So these are just some reflections about what I've learned about grief and death, and I'm sure more will come in, and maybe one day people are interested, I will write a book about it. And I think it's very easy for us, if we've been through childhood trauma, been to boarding school, to dissociate, and the dissociation might look like keeping busy, work, just doing stuff, and actually it's to lean in, it's to be with the discomfort just a little bit, kind of opening the body, feeling that, and when we do, we start to heal. And it's an ongoing process. It really is. So bless you. I've got a podcast going live on this Friday with Bradley, Dr. Bradley, forgotten his surname, but called The Emotion Code. He's a well-known author, just talking about emotions and healing, and really relevant for people who've been to boarding schools or childhood trauma. So enjoy, and I will look forward to speaking to you next week, and then the week after I'm going to have a week off. So, okay, take care.